This final lecture is about Maurice Ravel and the modern period. Maurice Ravel, 1875 to 1937, is the second of the French Impressionist composers. We've already spoken about Debussy. He was not only a composer, but he was a pianist and a conductor. He was born near Saint-Jean-de-Luz, France. In fact, I gave a concert on his piano in Saint-Jean-de-Luz. He studied at the Paris Conservatory and later studied with composer Gabriel Fauré. Stravinsky called him the perfectionist craftsman. Ravel said himself, and I quote, "My objective is technical perfection. I can strive unceasing to this end, since I am certain of never being able to attain it. The important thing is to get nearer to it all the time," unquote. His composer influences included Chopin, Liszt, Mendelssohn, Schubert, Bach, Mozart, and the Russian composers. Ravel's famous student was the English composer Ralph vaughan Williams. Ravel did not like being locked into the category of impressionist composer, since not every work that he wrote fell into that category. There are some differences of characteristics between Ravel and Debussy. Ravel used less of the whole tone scale than Debussy, and instead he uses the Dorian, the Mixolydian, and the Phrygian modes. He used the harmonic structure 2-5-1. He used consecutive fourths and fifths, and he used the interval of the falling fourth. He also reiterated many accompanying figures or single pitches. He used Basque folk songs, and a lot of times he would use the pedal in his impressionist music to blur the harmonies. The following works are the works that I would like you to experience of Maurice Ravel. One is the La Valse. La Valse was created in 1920. It was paying homage to the waltz king Johann Strauss. It idealizes the Viennese waltz shadowed by the dance of death, swirls of sound, and at the very beginning you almost hear like the pulse of the waltz, as though it's not quite in view. And then it comes closer and closer to you. The other work that I would like you to hear, if you have not already experienced it in one way, shape, or form, is the Bolero in 1928. Initially, it was conceived as a ballet, even though many times it's just heard as an orchestral piece. It has the Spanish ostinato rhythmic pattern, which begins with the snare drum as a solo and which continues with the snare drum all the way through the piece, as a crescendo is created by adding instruments to the famous melody. As an orchestrator, Ravel was famous for the 1922 orchestral version of Mussorgsky's Pictures at an exhibition. Jazz idioms were highly popular in Paris, and Ravel toured the United States on a piano tour. In fact, there's the very famous story about meeting up with Gershwin, and Gershwin wanted to study with Ravel, and Ravel said, basically, why would you want to be a second-hand Ravel when you can be a first-rate Gershwin? We know for a fact that the jazz examples are prevalent in Ravel's works, and I would like you to listen to the 1927 Sonata for Violin and Piano Movement 2, which he actually calls the Blues. The other work that I would like you to listen to that has the jazz idiom is the Piano Concerto in G major. The first movement in particular, this piano concerto was created in 1929 to 1931, and you definitely can hear Rhapsody in Blue in it, which was Gershwin's work of 1924. Please read and summarize Ravel's The Assimilation of Jazz. Ravel says, and I quote, "The most captivating part of jazz is its rich and diverting rhythms." And these are definitely apparent in his jazz examples. The modern period can be characterized by three words: dissonance, atonality, and rhythmic complexity. These concepts did not just show up, but have been propelled forward by past composers like Wagner and Debussy we have already studied, paving the way to more innovation. In the modern period, we experience a myriad of experiments and a variety of styles, as is witnessed by the various composers you have chosen for your final project. In my outline of the modern period, I have included vocabulary and definitions of certain concepts you may encounter when studying your composer. Not all modern period composers will use these ideas, but it is important to know about them because maybe you will use them in your creative process. I've given you musical examples of some of these concepts. Sprechstimme, Schoenberg's Perrault Lunaire. Primitivism, Stravinsky's Rite of Spring. 12-tone or the dodecaphonic system, Schoenberg's Variations for Orchestra. Aleatory or chance music, Cage's 4 minute 33 seconds. And the example of electronic music or musique concrète would be the Stockhausen's Kontakte. What ultimately will this modern period be called? Stay tuned.